You wanted the best. You've got the best podcast. The hottest podcast in the world. The Chris Voss Show, the preeminent podcast with guests so smart you may experience serious brain bleed. The CEOs, authors, thought leaders, visionaries, and motivators. Get ready. Strap yourself in. Keep your hands, arms, and legs inside the vehicle at all times, because you're about to go on a monster education roller coaster with your brain. Now, here's your host, Chris Voss.
Hi, folks. Chris Voss here from the ChrisVossShow.com. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the big show. We certainly appreciate it. As always, the Chris Voss Show is a family that loves you but doesn't judge you, at least not as harshly as the rest of your normal family. You know, you can't pick your family, but you can pick the Chris Voss Show. The only thing is, we don't loan money, so stop asking. As always, for further show to your family, friends, and relatives, go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss, LinkedIn.com/Chris Voss. Chris Voss won the TikTok, and Chris Voss, Facebook.com. You can go there as well. We had an amazing young man, author, on the show today. We're talking about his latest, hottest book, and he's a multi-book author from a series you may have heard of. I'm sure you've heard of it, actually. You've probably seen the movies on it, too. We have Brian Freeman on the show. He's the author of the latest book to come out July 16th, 2024. Robert Ludlum's The Bourne Shadow is out now. You can find it wherever fine books are sold, or, you know, you can go in alleyway bookstores if you want. You might get stabbed, but go ahead. Have your fun. Brian Freeman is a best-selling author of more than 20 novels, including the Jonathan Stride and Frost Easton series. His Audible original, The Deep, Deep Snow, was number 12 on the New York Times audio bestseller list. His novel Spilled Blood won the award for Best Hardcover Novel in the International Thriller Writer Awards, and his novel The Burying Place was a finalist for the same award. His debut novel, Immoral, won the Macavity Award and was the finalist for the Dagger, Edgar, Anthony, and Barry Awards. There was a lot of guys involved in those awards right there. For the best first novel, and he lives in Minnesota with his wife, which explains some of the snow thing there going on.
Well, you know, and the funny thing is I've actually now relocated down to Florida, so I got to get the new non-snow photo in here. So everyone...
Your next book is going to be the deep, deep Miami waters or something.
Yeah. During hurricane season, we got to be careful what we say here. Knock on wood.
That's true. That's true. So welcome to the show, Robert. How are you? Or Brian. I'm looking at the bio here, reading it down. I'm like, don't read the bio on the Robert part yet. So.
I'm doing great.
Thank you for coming to the show, Brian. Give us your .coms. Where do you want people to find you on the interwebs?
Yeah, it's my website is bfreemanbooks.com. That's all one word, bfreemanbooks.com. They can find I think we're up to 29, 30 novels at this point out there. And I'm over on whatever we're calling it these days, Twitter or X or something like that, at bfreemanbooks. And same on Instagram at bfreemanbooks and facebook.com/bfreemanfans. So I'm out there everywhere.
He's out there everywhere, folks. Follow him wherever the fine stuff goes on there. Yeah, X, I think next week is called Bankruptcy, I think is the next name iteration. Anyway, I don't know. I'm just doing jokes, Elon. Just roll with it. Anyway, so welcome to the show, Brian. Give us a 30,000 overview. Your new book, Robert Ludlum's The Bourne Shadow.
Yes. You know, the great thing about a character like Jason Bourne from a writer's perspective is Mr. Ludlum wiped out his memory. And so when you've got a hero with no memory, there's all sorts of great things you can pull out of that mist from the past. So
there you go. That's why I tell girlfriends on Tinder.
Yeah.
I forgot to call you.
The Bourne Shadow goes all the way back to when before Jason Bourne was Jason Bourne, when he was this young green kid named David Webb, and looks at the first mission that he did for this shadowy organization, Treadstone. And years later now, when he's Jason Bourne, a woman meets him on the street and recognizes him as David Webb. And so suddenly he's got a link back to that forgotten past, and all the lies and violence and betrayal start roaring back to life.
That does sound like my dating life. So there you go. So give us an overview of how did you grow up as an author? What made you want to become an author? And what influenced when you were young growing up?
Yeah, I'm one of those people. I've never wanted to do anything else. I can remember sitting in sixth grade class working on a mystery novel. All these years later, I still remember it was going to be called Checkmate, and it was a murder mystery set at a chess grandmaster competition. This was back in the 70s when Bobby Fischer and Boris Spassky were duking it out in Reykjavik for the chess championship, and there was little Brian, working on his little mystery novel there. So.
There you go.
Yeah. I mean, I've been literally writing my whole life, and but I wrote 5 books in my life that are still sitting in the nightstand drawer before I wrote a little book called Immoral, and that one ended up selling in 17 languages and becoming an international book of the month. So that was
pretty moral for an immoral book. I guess.
Yeah. Of course, my mom was not altogether pleased by this here. Here she's been waiting as long as I have for me to publish a book finally, and when it finally comes out, what's it called? Immoral.
Immoral.
Really.
I mean, that's half your life as a son, to disappoint your mom.
Wow, absolutely.
That's what I do on a regular basis. So there you go. But so you end up writing books. Was there, when you say you started writing at a very young age, you were interested in mystery novels, was there any influences that you were reading? Was there, did someone hurt you? Is that why you went into mystery right away? What was the deal?
Of all things, I blame it on my grandmother. She was she was the big mystery reader in the family. So she used to tell me, "Oh, I'm reading this great new book. It's got lots of bodies in it." That was the Freeman family milieu in which I grew up. So one way or another, I think I was destined to focus on mystery novels.
There you go. Stay on grandma's good side.
Exactly.
That's for sure. There. Yeah. So how did you now how does the Robert Ludlum series work? Because I notice here he's written a lot of books himself. How did you get brought into the series?
Yeah, it's really kind of amazing when I think about it. There I was in 1980, back I was 17 years old, and I was reading Robert Ludlum's The Bourne Identity, and here we are more than 40 years later, and now I've got my 5th Jason Bourne novel coming out. Bourne has gone through so many different iterations, and we had 3 books written by Ludlum back in the 1980s, and then we had the great Matt Damon movies that came out. Bless you, and we actually. A lot of people don't even remember that before Matt Damon was Jason Bourne, Richard Chamberlain was actually Jason Bourne in an NBC miniseries with Jacqueline Smith of Charlie's Angels fame as Marie St. John. Wow. And then, Eric von Lustbader, a good friend of Ludlum's, took over and did a number of Jason Bourne books. So by the time we'd gone through all these iterations through 40 years of Jason Bourne, I heard from my agent that Putnam had taken over the rights to the Bourne series from the estate, and they were looking for a new author to take over the series. And was I interested in tossing my hat into the ring? And I'd been a Bourne fan my whole life, a Ludlum fan my whole life. I was like, yeah, let's go after it. Let's see what happens. And after that, I think about 4 months of dead silence went by, and I thought, they've decided to go another way. That's fine. And then I got another call from my agent with 5 words I'll remember for a long, long time. Putnam wants you for Bourne. Yeah, I called up Tom Colgan, the editor of Putnam, and he's, I love your stuff. We'd love to have you, take over the Bourne series. What do you want to do with it? And I said, well, I'm sitting here, and my first reaction when I got the call was like, oh my God, and then my second reaction was, oh my God, because there's a hell of an intimidation factor, stepping into the shoes of a giant of the genre like Ludlum and such a, famous iconic hero like Jason Bourne. And what I told the folks at Putnam was, I said, I don't think you can build on what's come before. There's just too many different visions of Bourne out there, from the Matt Damon fans to the Ludlum fans. And I said, I think what you got to do is let's go back to the original character that Ludlum created in the Bourne Identity all those years ago, and be true and authentic to that character, but lift him up and put him down in all modern settings and all new characters and story arcs around him, and so make the whole series completely fresh and new, but with a character that Ludlum fans still recognize. There you go.
That's got to be great. So you were able to paint a whole new sort of fresh face on the character, maybe. Is that accurate?
Yeah, that's exactly right. And the family have been extremely supportive. I mean, when I first turned in The Bourne Evolution, which was my first Bourne book, they read it and came back and said, we love it. We don't want to change a word. So I thought that's terrific.
Nice. And you get a whole new direction to the thing. Of course, by starting from the younger age, you're able to you've got more distance because you can kind of restart over, basically.
Yeah, and I've had a couple readers that were like, gosh, shouldn't Bourne be a lot older? And I was like, yeah, if he started out in 1980, he'd probably be about 77 today. I don't think, maybe, I don't know. I mean, Liam Neeson has proved that anything's possible, but I'm not sure we really want 77-year-old action heroes running around in our book.
I mean, it was it's fiction, so you could do what you want.
That's true.
That's the beauty of it, right? Any tease outs you want to do of maybe plot lines or scenarios in the book to just give people that tease?
Yeah, in addition to the fact that this is really kind of Bourne discovering his past. I mean, he's going back and finding out what really happened when he was recruited to Treadstone. And so there's all sorts of lies that have been told along the way that he begins to peel away as the story goes on. Tons of twists and turns. I always love, ending each chapter of the book with a new twist. That means the reader's got to turn the page and find out what happens next.
So every chapter, wow.
Every chapter, absolutely. I want you to start reading, 8:00 in the evening. You got a bag of Doritos there, and you've got a few minutes to get a chapter or two, and the next thing you know, it's 3 a.m, and the Doritos are long gone, and you just couldn't put the book down. And what I try to do in the Bourne books is I want them to feel kind of ripped from the headline, so I'm always looking for what's topical and interesting. And it's amazing how often art imitates life or life imitates art. I mean, in the Bourne Shadow, it all revolves around a French election that's being influenced by outside elements. And here we are in the midst of a French election, and all these interesting elements there. Oh, okay.
Looked like the right wing was going to take off with France there for.
They must have been reading the Bourne Shadow for their strategy. So
it's interesting how much that happens. We've had people who wrote about Russia attacking Ukraine before the Russian-Ukraine war, and then it goes down by the time the book publishes, and you're like, okay.
I know you got it. I think maybe we better be a little careful here. We've got Russians that are reading our novels.
Yeah, maybe that's what it is. Damn it, all these novels are giving them ideas. So there you go. What's upcoming for the Jason Bourne series, or for other stuff that you're doing personally that you're working on?
Yeah, I actually have a couple more books coming out pretty darn soon. In September, less than 2 months away, September 10th, I've got a standalone thriller called Break Every Rule. That's going to be coming out from Blackstone Books, and I'm really, really psyched about having that book in the marketplace. The podcast, The Thriller Zone, I don't know if you know Dave Temple, but he's a great thriller reviewer, and he just released his top 20 books of the summer, and Break Every Rule came in at number 1. Can't wait for Break Every Rule to be in readers' hands. And then Bourne is back already in January. The Bourne Vendetta is all done and ready to roll, and so in the midst of the dead of winter, at least for those folks that are still in Minnesota, they'll be looking for the Bourne Vendetta come January.
There you go. This will be fun to see come out. Anything more we need to know before we go out?
No, I think you've got everything. Just follow Bourne down the road of all those twists and turns.
There you go, and watch for the exciting stuff to come out in the future from this series and the series and stuff that you're doing as well. There you go. So, Brian, give us your .coms. Where can people find you on the interwebs?
Yep, absolutely. I am at bfreemanbooks.com. That's all one word, bfreemanbooks.com. Over on Twitter /X/whatever at bfreemanbooks. Same at Instagram, bfreemanbooks, and facebook.com /bfreemanfans.
There you go. And this is saying it's book 19 of 20 on Amazon.
Yeah, now I've only written 5 of those, but my series is a whole reboot, so you don't have to have read anything that came before. You can dive right in with my Bourne novels.
This is kind of funny how Amazon does this. So, is the next book called The Bourne Vendetta?
That is, in fact, yes, the next Bourne book.
We've had a couple of prolific authors like yourself on this show, and lately I've been noticing this where I'm like, wait, this is book something of something. Does that mean the next book is already being advertised? And sure enough, there it is, at January 14th, 2025. It's being advertised. I
was going to say, no moss grows on those folks at Amazon. Yeah.
That's true. In fact, I think we had the folks from Tom Clancy on, and I was like, so the next book is called this, and they go, how do you know that? No one's supposed to know that. And I'm like, I'm looking at the cover right here, and they're like, no one's supposed to see the cover. What are you getting that from? I'm like, from Amazon. And they're like,
Jeff Bezos knows all. Alexa is sitting there listening in the background, catching everything. So.
Yeah, one of my friends is the CEO of CES show, the big CTA CES show that they put on every year in January. He had announced his book, but it was on Amazon. And it was a third-party seller somehow that had figured it out.
Oh, my God, really? Oh,
yeah, they were one of those third-party copy rip-off sellers.
Okay.
And so they had it up, and they had the title and everything. And I was like, did you know your book's up for sale? And he goes, what? I haven't finished writing it yet. So yeah, it's wild what's going on Amazon. So there you go. Watch for the Bourne Vendetta, January 14th, 2025. Is it in the can yet, or are you still writing it?
No, it's all done. Yeah, fortunately, last year though, I think they announced the Bourne Shadow when I was only 40% of the way through the book. It's like, I guess I better finish it now.
Better finish this thing. Yeah, got the gun to your head there. Thank you very much, Brian, for coming on the show. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Chris.
There you go. And thanks, guys, for tuning in. Order the book wherever fine books are sold. It's out now, July 16th, 2024. Robert Ludlum's The Bourne Shadow, part of the Jason Bourne series. Hopefully it'll be a film. We'll watch for that. Thanks for tuning in. Go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss, LinkedIn.com/Chris Voss. Chris Voss won the TikTokity. All those crazy places on the internet. Be good to each other. Stay safe. We'll see you next time.